All right, everybody, watch your P's and Q's or whatever we want to call it. Here's Kevin's coming in at the last minute. I think that admitted him. So here's a slide deck, and it is, for the record, officially December 16th, 2021, Underground Utilities Mapping Project Team. And the agenda as sent out was a total mess, and I apologize if you've read through it and figured out that I didn't know how to time sequence, but I've tried to correct it here. Typical chair opening, vice chair, and then we'll have Terry Holcomb from MnDOT. We're looking forward to that presentation. He's going to talk about the GeoReal application out there. Small group updates, finalize a project way forward, and then we'll wrap up things and put on your schedule. Next meeting, January 27, 2021. And with that, our esteemed leader takes the floor.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Thanks, everybody, for joining today, our last meeting of the year. We've had a really a good 2021 in spite of all the pandemic. And as we work through the fusion view and the prototype and a lot of the legal issues, I think we're in a good position to make some good progress, especially in the next 2 to 3 months. I'm really looking forward to that. So with that, let's keep going.
Okay, Barb, I apologize. I didn't have the share going there, and hopefully we can get back in business here. I got a couple of people I got to let in. Hold on a second. Got to be smart enough to figure out how to do it. Okay. Obviously, I'm the admin guy. Here's some updates for you, so you get a sense of where things have been going. Policy statements and letters of support, as most of you are well aware. October 18th, the Minnesota Clean Water Council passed a policy statement in support of our efforts and encouraged support throughout the greater Minnesota community. I just found out yesterday that the Natural Resources and Environment Committee of the Association of Minnesota Counties passed the policy position in support, and they voted it out to the larger group of the Association of Minnesota Counties. So that's a significant development. Yesterday also received from the Minnesota Geospatial Advisory Council a letter of support, and just for everybody's pondering and consideration, potential targets going forward, we may want to think about doing something relative to the Association of Minnesota Emergency Managers, and Minnesota Surveyors might be another place. And we've also been indirectly invited to present before the Legislative Water Commission, and that's obviously a function of Minnesota state government. So we got some irons in the fire and some additional ways going forward here. So good deal. I also would like to let you know that as a function of this particular project team actually being hooked onto a Minnesota sanctioned Minnesota committee, that effectively we have to provide them what our goals are for 2022. And those items are: conduct at least 8 monthly meetings of the project team during 2022, produce a way forward blueprint document, complete development of a prototype system which can aggregate diverse, and it's going to be an aggravation, but we got to aggregate diverse utility geospatial data and make available for other project identified needs. Deliver at least one presentation, probably these last three, no problem at all. Publish at least one article, and then the very last one is continue to develop project champions in the underground utility and regulatory communities. So we've been making good progress, as Barb's related, and I don't see any reason why in 2022 we don't get there also. I also wanted to point out that we've been out and about. Damon Nelton and Bob Bisquez presented to Minnesota GIS LAS on October 29th, November 16th. I ended up in an ad hoc meeting with a number of UK officials You see them listed there. Bob joined me on that call, and effectively I'd been doing some outreach trying to see if we could get the original version of the software that was used in the Scottish Vault. And it kind of led to this discussion. And my bottom line there is the impression is we are quickly closing the gap on who's supposed to be the planet leader in this effort, and that's the UK. And if we execute on the 2022 plan, I fully believe we're going to move ahead of them. So we're well positioned and making great progress. You see Barb's presentation there to the Association of Public Works, American Public Works. And I'm slated to go talk to the Minnesota Society of Professional Surveyors on February 24th, and Barb and TBD to the Global Excavation Conference down in Phoenix. So that's kind of the out and about thing. Last item I've got here is, as many of you are aware, Jeff Zeiss, who's across the border in Canada, but has been a just absolutely critical element of helping us move the ball here. He is the chair of the Subsurface Utility Mapping Strategy Forum in Canada. That will take place on March 22nd through the 23rd. That's a virtual conference. The link is there. And if you want to pencil it into your calendar, I'm sure Jeff would appreciate anyone that is willing to stop by and hear the presentations that take place there. With that, is there anything else from the floor along kind of just the update, Blaine?
Yes, Steve, real quick, we're trying to get in front of the county engineers and the city engineers in Minnesota in the months ahead.
Okay.
Brad here, Steve and Barb. Say, Barb, did anybody
Brad.
from the county engineer, did anybody from the county engineer follow up with you yet or not?
Nope. So
Okay.
please keep pushing.
Yeah, I'll, again, they wanted you to come in. We just haven't got the details set up when we would do that. So I'll keep working on that from our side.
Thank you, Brad.
Steve, Steve, one other little tidbit. You know, we have this Minnesota IAM group, and what IAM is, the Institute of Asset Management. The group is actually, it's a worldwide group. It's centered out in Great Britain. So when you talk about high accuracy underground stuff, that's kind of where the group that's spearheading that out there. The Australians are second, the Canadians are third, and then the US is way, 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 way behind everybody else. So we got a lot of ground to cover, but what you guys are doing is getting, you're raising the question, you're raising the issue with people. And Steve, I don't know about you, but if you haven't seen Barb actually in person do her presentation, she's fabulous. Okay, I'm going.
She wouldn't be the boss if she wasn't fabulous.
I guess that's enough of that.
Moving along, the next thing that's up is group reports. We're running long, but I think the information that was gained there is worth it. As we wrapped up last time in December, the 4 challenges that were sent to the small groups were: did you review and clarify your group membership? Did you meet? What are your group goals for 2022? And did you continue the Fusion View discussion and have any additional thoughts, comments? And before we wander into that, I would point out that I did get feedback relative to group membership. And we've got a number of scratches that go across what had previously been our breakout, and the way I'm going to look at handling that as distributed with that spreadsheet that went out with the last wrap up is that I'll move those individuals that are currently have the scratch lines through them. I'll move them over to what we're calling here the observers group, folks that don't have direct access to the group files, and we'll take it from there. We've also had a number of individuals that have stepped forward and said that they want something more participation, more robust, or are getting, if you will, roped into helping out here. We've got the three folks here, plus Santosh has a requested assignment to a group. So people moving in, people moving out. And I think there's a song like that. But with that, I'll turn the floor over to Travis. What do you got for your update for your facility group, Travis?
Well, not much. We did meet, but it's been a while. I think it was around the last time we had a meeting. It was right before that, and then so I got you some group membership information, like you said, and then we were thinking about what we should do next, and that was we were spitballing. We were at a loss, as you know. We were kind of trying to figure out where we go now. But I had the suggestion, I guess, to build some instructional videos and do documents that people can reference. So when they want to understand how they can start mapping their utilities using a locator or doing locates at the same time as mapping their utilities, they have somewhere to go, some kind of direction to easily click to and give them their options. And then whatever options they choose, they'll give them some kind of or get going. From what we've gone through so far with all the different vendors that have done their presentations and such. After that, we're trying to work with Bob's group to get this fusion view, our point of view, into the fusion view from the locator standpoint, and where it needs to go from there. And then I'm working with some of the pilot program people to get databases to Bob that he can start pulling in from and building a prototype or building a working model.
Thank you, Travis. Any questions for Travis? Going once, going twice, gone. Okay, Bob, you're up.
I started scheduling meetings with the group. I'm trying to push the meetings up right, or as close as I can to right before the leadership meetings or this meeting. And the idea being there is that kind of everything stays fresh in people's minds when they get to these meetings. About what they talked about. So we had one meeting. I brought everybody up to speed on where I thought we were at as far as the data flow side of things, and the fact that we're working with Travis's group, and that some of the questions I got were related to, well, does Travis know what you're doing, that kind of thing. So had to clarify that for some people, and they also asked about questions about where did some of the ideas come from for doing the prototype, that aspect. So got everybody up to speed on there, and then we've got a semi-schedule moving forward. We're going to meet at least monthly. Some of our bigger discussion points, were around the prototype itself and how that's going to be moved forward. The bigger deal right now we're waiting on is the data calls. So the stuff that Travis just talked about, getting information from different services and pulling them into the prototype. So the call for participation, Barb's kind of on that as well. And then we need other feature types besides the monuments that we started with, which were very simple features, which, they're being points. And then one of our next big steps is figuring out how to do the filtering for requesting and building that against the ownership jurisdictions as well. So that's kind of the next big major piece, is getting more data in and then starting to work on that filtering process.
I think even more importantly is you got the process moving forward. That's key. So thank you, Bob. That takes us down to outreach, and Valerie Mendoza has been extracted, if you will, to work extensively on the upcoming Global Excavation Safety Conference. And so within that group, we'll have to do some outreach here and figure out who's going to take the lead going forward, or somebody can chime in right now and say they'll be the lead of the outreach group. Anybody want to take it? Going once, going twice, gone. Okay. We'll be on the phone. Regulations and security, Dean.
We just had this morning, I think, our best meeting ever. Got lots of great input, and I guess special thanks to Adam Franco, Michael Norse, Bob, and Mike Mendiola, as well as Dave Phillips. We have a refined set of outlines for a distribution agreement to use with the facility operators and a license agreement to use with an end user. It remains to be seen whether we'll continue with that or maybe determine that a different structure is more appropriate, but it seems like people are relatively comfortable with that so far. But they raised a lot of issues, and so we've got a lot of homework to go back and work on those outlines further. Next meeting will probably be in early January. And then the hope would be after a couple of additional meetings, refining it internally, that some of the other groups would start to take a look at least at a few of these issues and give us some additional feedback. Goal for 2022 optimistically, I'd like to have drafts of those two agreements done by then, but we'll need plenty of input from the other groups in order to make that happen.
Yeah, Dean, what's the name of the second agreement? I heard distribution.
Well, right now, we're just calling it an end user license, but we'll
Okay.
refine it. But
Thank you. I didn't catch it.
Dean, will we have something available relative to this kickoff project in Glencoe for folks to sign?
Yes, I should have something later this week.
Okay. Okay,
I guess
that's
that's
great.
tomorrow.
Great news. Great news. Okay. Any questions for Dean? Going once, going twice, gone. Okay, so the remainder of our discussions here today, we would like to focus on finalizing a project way forward. And it breaks down into 4 elements. Some new Fusion View graphics for you to review and consider. I will actually be sending them out as attachment to the wrap up for today's meeting. Awareness issue for your next small group meeting of the existence of a tasking spreadsheet that has been put together as an initial point for folks to take a look at. And then perhaps a discussion here on should we do some thinking about how our group alignments are. I have a proposal to throw on the table, and people can take a look at that. And then we'll drop into open discussion to maybe kind of come back and beat up on the first 3 things that are there. So I would like to start by kind of giving a point of reference. The rocket is going to blow up on the launch pad. The reality is that we're doing something for the very first time, and to the degree that we're going to come out of the gate with the correct answer on all of this stuff, the first time isn't going to happen. It just isn't. So anything that I'm putting forward or is being proposed, everybody's got to realize that we're just going to have to keep going through the stuff till we get it nailed down to the point where it actually all the pieces work together. So, we're going to learn from failure here, and but we just got to press forward if we're going to get the job done. So as kind of a highlight to that, when the original Fusion View graphic was put out, the response was too complicated. I don't understand it, whatever. Okay, so that's version 1.1. Then we moved on to version 2.1 and kind of got the same sort of feedback. So the rocket blew up again. So here's version 3.1, and it's a series of slides, and Barb's asked me to just kind of work my way through it. But the point is the set of slides starts out with an overview graphic, which attempts to define in big terms where stuff would be. So individual utility databases, the attempt to try to create something that can pull together these diverse data sets that are out there, the potential to use or have 3 use cases on the backside of this effort. Obviously, our number one priority is getting in place support to the ticketing system that supports the locators. And where do we want to think about bringing in things like reports of unknown abandoned infrastructure, and should a locator retain a copy, and should they feed it back to the utility database? Absolutely yes. And then we need to think downrange about how we want to enable data so that field access, kind of very similar to what you just saw with Terry's presentation, how do we empower that or anticipate what we need to do to empower that down the road? And then this planning, we heard a lot from Terry about planning, the value of having that data available and how you fit that as-built stuff in and move forward and get it back into the utility database. So that's kind of the overview. And then the effort that's been done here is to then segment it out and break it out in a way that you as a group can sit down and look at it and go, is this correct or not? So for instance, inputs here, what are the inputs to the individual utility database? Well, staff field collects and corrections, as-built engineering data, locator collects, construction discovery, and potentially something that none of us, I think, even were thinking about, but off the wall, the idea came forward about the potential for the parcel owner knowing something about buried utilities on his property that didn't match up with maybe what was being reported. And then outputs, how is it going to be used? Utility responsibility. So you got this database. What's the utility responsible for? So you got the situation of needing to do maintenance and fidelity insurance on that database, improving it, the input vetting. Did Travis do his job in the field? Does this match up with what we think it should be? And then you heard Terry talking about the potential for what do we need to do in terms of managing, if we're building something going forward, how do we do that? How do we data record it? And so I would then bring you down to, we're going to have some certain responsibilities in this. And to the degree that we were looking at coming up with a data schema, data quality, and the fusion view. And so each of these slides is framed that way. And the next one kind of walks through the ticketing system, the field data access system, and the planning system. What elements need to be thought about in that flow as it goes around for the ticketing system? What issues are out there? We're going to run into this credentialing thing. How big should we make the bounding box, for instance, for a field access system? The transmission of the data needs to be able to work with whatever the equipment manufacturer may have in the vehicle for AR and mobile. And then sort of the same sort of issues down here with the planning system. And then finally, we'll break out the upper and lower sections and get to the fusion view. So you break out the locate process of what goes on here, what the locator's responsibilities should be in this scenario, and then what our responsibilities should be in that kind of a flow. Followed by, fusion view. How does it break out? Well, what are the resident data sets? There's going to be certain stuff that's going to be authorized local storage, with a daily call of what has changed. We've talked about this rural consortium. We've talked a lot about abandoned and unknown infrastructure. There may be instances where there's going to be high call demand on one particular service of a utility. Should there be some sort of a policy and plan in place to store stuff temporarily, maybe for 24 hours to be able to serve that demand? And then GSOC, the planning module, and what are our responsibilities as it goes through here. So all group discussion elements, either small group or large group as we see fit. And then I've also tacked onto this set of slides 2 additional ones, and that enables, if you will, thinking about expanded, or should say in-depth thinking about the two elements that are kind of sit off here by themselves, the field data access. And so we've stolen from Troy the TDS example and enables 3D AR in the field. Is there a way to automate that so that it becomes a process that from the build of Fusion View provides for in the field way to approach this access to data that will work there. And then I've taken folks in Montana, the example of their planning system and what the workflow for that in-use case there is in Montana and how they see approaching it. So I've broken that out of how they're currently doing it. And this is strictly for the stuff that's in the Montana DOT right away. But the reality is here, we're talking about doing it effectively for the state. So from this example, how should we think about adjusting our process? The second thing I've done here is put together a small group tasking spreadsheet. And what this tasking spreadsheet does is breaks down by phases. So right now we're talking about trying to get this project going in Glencoe, Minnesota, and what elements of data need to be pulled together, who needs to be talking to who. So you can pretty well look at this and figure out that between Barb, Bob, and Travis, they're pretty much working their way through this thing. But in response to, for instance, the discussion that was, the points that were brought forward by Travis about trying to figure out what they should be working on, I've taken basically and broken these down into 5 elements, or I should say 6, which cover our current groups plus what would be a potentially a new group, a data group, and the leadership team also. Because on some of this stuff, the leadership team is going to have to be the team that makes the final decision on how we do things. And so that's available as a shared document that is available at this link. And if you have a registered account, you can come in and look at it. And if you happen to be in the leadership team, you can come in and edit it. So it's an opportunity to, within your various groups, take a look at what myself, throwing spaghetti against the wall, thought the process should look like going forward, and your chance to tell me, hey, you're all screwed up, you need to do it this way or whatever. But we have a starting point, and the rocket's going to blow up a couple of more times before we get into space, and here's your chance to help cut down the number of explosions. So how do you get to this? This is just a reminder. Here's the website right down there across the bottom. And on that website, when you pull it up, on the lower left-hand side, it says Underground Utilities. When you click on that, you'll come onto a web page that where it says Working Papers. If you click on Edit View, the next thing you're going to see is a G Drive folder that opens up. And inside that G Drive folder, you'll see Improvement Plan. Click that folder open, and lo and behold, there's only one spreadsheet in there, and that's this tasking spreadsheet that I'm trying to use as a way for us to road map out our way going forward and all the different things that could be occurring simultaneously that that will get us to the finish line at a much quicker rate. And I think a good example of that, we're a long ways away from needing the regulatory support that we may need at some point in the future, but we've been building the relationships and building the documentation to support that when and if we need it. So the last element that I'm going to throw up here before we open it up to open discussion here is a big fat question mark about should we make some effort to realign into a different kind of flow of groups. And what I'm proposing to the group, and your opportunity to tweak or whatever, is to think of Travis's team as it currently exists as working on the elements of that locate loop. And within the spreadsheet, all the items that are identified for specific action by the locate group. Same thing with, label them legal, but I know Dean prefers to see regulatory and security on there. But that's the idea, that Dean's current group, anything that's tagged legal, would have the opportunity to work on those items. More or less, Bob's team mutating into the group that will do the build, and we'll call them the Fusion View team. Outreach to be determined. I think there's an opportunity for us to use outreach in a more focused way for the short term, of being able to work the issues of building points of contact for information that we may need downstream. And then finally, a fifth group, the data group, which would be a new approach, which would meet more frequently, because there's so many elements of this data thing that go across the entire spectrum that need to be refined, if you will, that for the Fusion View build to work correctly, and for the data to get back into the field correctly, and then to get back into the utility database correctly, I would propose that we have something that's kind of led by Bob, Travis, and Adam, and then anyone else that's willing to work on the hardcore data issues. I'll chime in and join that group on their meetings as much as as possible for me, but that would kind of be the thinking on that approach. So I'll bump back to the slides as needed, but at this point, I'll stop flapping my gums and open the floor to open discussion. And with that, who wants to go first?
So if you just flip back to the previous slide, Steve, the one thing as you were going through that we don't have listed on, or maybe we do have listed on, I just don't appreciate where it is, and that is the end user's perspective, particularly excavator or designer, and maybe they don't have a big role, but I think in trying to figure out, as we're starting from the standpoint of a more complex global system, but ultimately we continue to be told that you want something very simple, and you don't want to be overloading the end user with information to the point where it's no longer as usable for them. So where does that play into this set of groupings? Is that in data? Is it in locate? Is it where?
Yeah, so rather than segmenting it out as being one category of people, I think the correct way to break it out is to think about the end use needs and then plug them into, for instance, I think what you were talking about there was a data issue. And so I think that data issue needs to be plugged. How I would do it is I'd plug it into the spreadsheet and try to identify the correct point in the phases of development that it would be addressed. That's how I would think about it. But again, it's just me trying to say, here's the outline. We need to go. Barb said we need to go to the moon, which tells me we need to build a rocket. The rest of you guys figure out how to build a rocket. I just tell you, we're going to need a rocket. So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So just kind of being open, Bob, I want your opinion here. Me and Bob have been working on and just show and telling a lot of stuff lately. I'd really like to be part of the Fusion View build team, but you kind of got a feel for, where my technical skill set's at.
I don't think that'd be a problem. I've been trying to figure out what kind of a subcommittee might look like inside of the data flows group for doing the design of Fusion View, I guess I should say.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm kind of
Yeah,
leaning on building something internally with our company similar to that, but I'd be honest, I'm more of a puppet master pulling the strings of all the people in my company than I am actually the one writing and dealing with the databases.
But I
Okay, I
think,
can relate to that position.
but I think one thing you can contribute a lot on is as a user.
Right.
How do you make it simple? How can I get access? Because we're going to have thousands of people using this system.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping to be one. Right.
Right, exactly.
All right. I'd like to go to the Fusion View group then and try to help spearhead that and keep it moving.
Yeah, okay. I'll just add you onto the list.
I think I'm already, I mean, like I said, I'm kind of moonlighting in a few groups right now. So go ahead.
Yeah, but I'll be starting to send you the hard questions now.
That's fine. And I can take them to my team and try to come up with answers too. Like I said, it's not necessarily just me.
This is shifting topics a little bit and jumping back, but the overview you put together, Steve, of the sort of plans for 2022. Sorry to do this too, but I still feel like it's a little bit overcomplicated for, I guess, at least what I was hoping from that. I was hoping to eventually get to a point where it's like a single image that, in an ideal world, I could take and show someone who's never heard of this project before and get them to sort of understand like the absolute highest level view of it in like 30 seconds or less. I still feel like it's just a little too much. Maybe there's value for something really detailed for within the team, but I was thinking of this as more something we would show to people that are asking questions who aren't already involved.
I'll take a stab at translating that for Steve. Steve, we need an elevator slide.
I get it, but you're at what point? Let's do it this way. Fair comment. I continue to struggle with how to boil it down into one slide.
I have an idea, Steve.
Let me take a crack at something with you, Steve.
Okay.
And I have some ideas too. I think I'll just say it out really quickly. So on the individual databases, you can make some pictures. In the Fusion view, you combine those sets onto one map, make a picture. And on the right, you can take a picture of an excavator, a locator, and a design engineer. So maybe converting this into some visuals rather than words would help it.
I agree. I make similar things for my company and how we're intertwining all of our systems, and I make it comic book style. And it's more successful.
Okay, so the rocket blew up again.
No, I think
I think those are great ideas. I love them, actually.
I think that one didn't really blow up. It just went off course.
Okay. All right. Other thoughts? Anybody else out there, or does everybody want to go home early? I can't believe it. I didn't hear a word from Travis.
No, I'm good. I think it looks all good to me. I think you did a great job simplifying it already. But if they want pictures and coloring books, go at it.
Well, I understand the elevator speech idea. I think the ability.
It's really a little bit different purpose than what you've done.
I was gonna say, I think both are good. I think you have two different audiences.
Yeah,
I think that's a good point. For people that know what WFS and all this other stuff means, this is a better one. But if you want to explain it to a small municipal guy to get on board, you need something simple.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just query the group leaders about the next time you get together, or even before then. Travis, I know you had volunteered basically to kind of look through my work beforehand, but as I indicated, it was just one of those weeks where I got, as you would well know, got slammed, and I wasn't able to really get it out to the leadership team beforehand. But what are your thoughts on working through this thing and poking around at it and adding, deleting, whatever?
Yeah, I'll get it'll probably be after the first of the year, but I want to get our group on it so we can redline it. Now that I know where to find it, we can get that done.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Bob, are you good too? Okay. And Dean, there's a lot of stuff on there for you. In fact, if we go over there,
Little scary. Well, Steve, this is a fantastic job of herding cats. I think that I didn't get much time to take a look at that Fusion 3.1 view, but I think that's really starting to organize our thinking. And this tasking spreadsheet will help us get moving, I think, much more quickly on the prototype project. So thank you. This was not a simple thing to do.
so thank you. I appreciate that comment. So what I again try to do here is, for instance, Dean, one thing you may not have thought about is I believe that you're going to have to get involved in figuring out the design and the limits for the bounding box.
Yes.
Because there are, for the build team to be able to figure out how to do that, that's actually going to end up being a policy driven issue.
Yes, we actually talked about that this morning a little bit.
Yeah, it's a linear item, if it's a road construction versus, being a point, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And then legal down here. What I tried to do with these phases that are in here, I tried to put them in as the lining up with the first build of the Fusion view on the theory that it's going to have to be built 3 times before we're going to have anything. And then I think the leadership team is going to have to try to put some dates to the end of each phase so that there's a goal there to be working towards. But it's not just about building a piece of software. It's about pulling together all the different stuff around it. So anyway, that's there for folks to take a look at, ponder. And next time we get together, that's one of the things that I've asked, that the subgroups be prepared to come back and, if you will, talk about the extent of what we've, am I still sharing my screen with you? Did we jump back to the PowerPoint?
Are you still sharing your screen?
Is it showing the PowerPoint?
No, it's showing a Excel document,
Okay.
small group tasking spreadsheet.
Oh yeah, that's PowerPoint. Okay. Well, any other thoughts, comments, death threats?
Thank you for getting Terry from MnDOT. I think that gave us, at least it gave me a good vision. So when we pull all the pieces together from various companies, we'll be able to, it'll look like his, what he called it, his it's RTMC, ITS, right?
So Barb, what do you want to do about meeting again as a leadership team on normal schedule for January?
Oh, yes. I think we scheduled that already, didn't we?
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to be sure. Do you want to put off resolving whether we do a group realignment until the next large group meeting, or how do you want to do that?
I just said that since the group was silent on this, I would say that it's acceptance. Because that's how we're operating. I don't think it's a major change.
Okay.
I didn't hear anybody pipe up and say, don't do this. I think it's just a small refinement in adding a focused effort on that data piece where we have a hardcore team really trying to get it done.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Anything else? Open discussion? Going once, going twice. All right. All right. So here we are. Next meeting, info goals.
Okay.
Here they are. Fearsome 4 by the next time we meet. Hold a meeting of your active small group players. I'll adjust the document, send it out with the diagram. What is missing on the tasking spreadsheet? So that's your charge to go in there and take a look at it, poke at it. Next time we get back together, I'll make a list. We'll plug them in, and rather than a Gantt diagram, we try to use that approach to move forward. Unless somebody wants to do Ganting, then I'll turn that over to them and they can run with it. Develop a plan to begin tackling your group items on the plan, and be prepared to brief. Next meeting, January 27th of 2022. Can you believe it? And with that, don't bother just to be better than your contemporaries or predecessors. Try to be better than yourself. And I think with that, it's happy holidays. I'll turn the floor back to Barb. You got it. What do you want to wish them?
Well, happy holidays, everybody, and be safe and enjoy the time off if you are taking time off.
All right. Thank you
Okay.
all.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Happy holidays.